Since the chairman's not here, I will assume the duties of the chairperson for this particular meeting. There are some other copies of the agenda up here. Lynn, can I give them to you if you're interested? Well, you can pass them around or whatever so that they're available for you up here. I'd like at this point to make committee assignments. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 committees that I believe should be set up. The first committee is the committee about finances. That would be investigating the finances of Cherry Hill and the finances of Merchantville. So it's not about our finances as much as it is about the finances, so we can see how they mesh and how things work together. And the members of that Finance Commission are going to be Kathy Birmingham, George Wilkinson, and Rich James from Merchantville, Tom Yarnell, Seth Klukoff, and Mayor Platt from Cherry Hill. The Properties and Municipal Services and Properties Commission, in which we're dealing with places like this, the community center, all the assets essentially of the various communities, and the services that are provided by each community. That particular committee will be dealing with those kinds of issues, looking at how they fit, what kinds of shared services are already in place, and what kinds of things need to be resolved. The Merchantville commissioners assigned to that committee are George Wilkinson, Rosemarie Hicks, and Anthony Perno, and the Cherry Hill appointees are Sandy Levinson, Tom Yarnell, and Roger Dennis. Third committee is the Committee of Schools. That is a relatively obvious committee in that we're dealing with the school system, because a part of this process is dealing with, is anticipating some type of a merger between the two school systems should the process go, should we approve the process, the committee reports rather, the consultant reports, and it goes to the voters. So the school commission, the school committee is for Merchantville, Rich James and Kathy Birmingham; for Cherry Hill, Seth Klukoff and Sandy Levinson. The next committee is public safety, that is fire and police. The Merchantville commissioners are Anthony Perno, Rosemarie Hicks, and the Cherry Hill commissioners will be Mayor Platt and Roger Dennis. The last committee is, we want to call it Representation, Government Structure, and Personnel. It's kind of like whatever's left over. The other things that aren't included in all the other things, and things that we not may have forgotten, but things that as we look at them, we say, oh, wait a minute, this needs to be a bigger issue. This needs to be studied in a different committee or a different way. That's going to actually be a committee of the whole, in the sense that every commissioner will be a part of that commission. And sometimes we may split them up and say, okay, you deal with this issue for the next meeting, and this group deal with that part of an issue for the next meeting. So we're going to deal with that as a committee of the whole. Again, every commissioner is a part of that. I would also like to propose, and the chair will entertain a motion to impanel an executive committee. You have someone who would
I'll make the motion to have an executive
committee. I would. Do we have a second for that?
Yes.
Okay. I would propose that the executive committee be Roger Dennis as the chairman of this commission, me as the vice chair, Mayor Platt as the Cherry Hill representative, and Anthony Perno as the Merchantville representative. I see the need for an executive committee so that if something happens in between the major meetings that has to, a decision has to be made or some process has to be moved forward, that the executive committee would be empowered to take that action and then report back at the next meeting as to what actions were taken. Is there a discussion on this as from the commissioners?
I just have one. When you talk about an executive committee, isn't it typically that they do a review, but it still comes back to full committee for a vote, opposed to the executive committee being empowered to move forward a decision without coming back to full committee?
Yes. Is that how you want it to be? I mean, again,
I would
Comes
feel-
back.
that comes back to this, yes, it's,
Yeah.
yes.
Comes back to the committee of the whole.
Okay, so the executive committee would, in the interim, kind of make decisions, move things forward, but would not be empowered to make ultimate decisions unless it comes back, reports back to the committee of the whole.
But to make
To-
recommendations.
Yeah, so they'd be making recommendations to the commission. Is that my understanding about what
Yes.
everyone is interested in?
Yes.
Okay, is there any other discussion about that? Okay, so basically we have the motion that the executive committee will be formed with Roger Dennis, Richard James, Mayor Platt, and Anthony Perno, and that committee will deal with issues in between meetings if they come up, and will report, make a recommendation back to the commission for final approval at the next scheduled meeting. Okay, all those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so moved. I have one other issue that I believe needs to be taken up before we deal with the future meeting schedule. We need to deal with how the votes are going to be taken and how the votes are going to be recorded, in the sense that, are we going to function, if we have a vote on something, is everybody have an equal vote, and it's, we have to have at least 6 people voting for it in order for the motion to pass? Or is it going to be, there have to be at least a majority of each community's commissioners to vote, to approve it in order for a motion to pass? I'm going to open this for discussion, although there's not a motion on the floor at this point. But for the commissioners, is there, what is your viewpoint about how you think things should go, so we can kind of come to a consensus, and then we can put it to a motion and a vote if that's something that you think we need to do? So what is your pleasure? How do you think we should deal with this?
Myself, I would think it should be the majority of the entire committee.
The
Yeah.
entire committee? Mayor Platt, did you?
No, I concur that it should be a majority vote so that we can move on, and all one commission. It's not individual commissions at this time. We've all joined together, and it should be a majority of the commission. If it's 6-4, or if it's a 5-5, then we got a problem, but we'll work that out.
Any other comments? Any other, Anthony?
The only comment I have is I think actually when we actually make, I think that's accurate for all votes that we take, with the
Mhm.
exception of the final
The
vote.
final vote,
Yeah.
I think
yeah.
the final vote, it should be a minimum of 3-3 on each,
Right.
with each
Yeah,
side of the
I didn't bring that into this discussion because I assumed that when we got closer to that, then we would make we make a decision as a committee about how we're going to deal with that. And I agree with you. I think that's,
But just way
With it.
it's laid up front that I think that if everyone's aware that as we move forward, I think the commission should be a majority, as individuals, but when it comes down to the final recommendation to the public as a whole, as to whether or not this is going to go to a public vote, I think it should be it should also be an inclusion of not just a majority of the commission, but also a majority of each individual set of commissioners.
okay, all right. Anthony, so would you make that would you consider that to be a motion then
I
at
would
this point?
consider that to be a motion at this point.
Okay, we have a second to the
Second.
motion, Seth? Is there any further discussion on the motion? Okay, just let me summarize then, as I understand it. As the commission, we will be voting, we are a commission. We are not Merchantville and Cherry Hill, we are a commission. When the final report comes through, the vote would need to be at least 3 commissioners from each community would have to approve the final report in order for it to be approved. Is that it, where everyone else is understanding of it? Okay, those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good. All right, meeting schedule. Since we're meeting on the first Tuesday of January, I would propose that we meet on the first Tuesday of each month going forward. So the first Tuesday of January, February, March, et cetera, until we get a committee, until we get a report that we would vote on as a commission. Is there, I'm not going to make, well, if someone makes a motion, that's fine, but let's talk about whether that seems to work or if someone has a problem with that.